Everyone saw him pass airport security without a problem. No alarms, no questions. But 5 steps later, an officer froze, stared at his screen, and quietly said, "Sir, please come back." No one knew why. Not yet. The ordinary man. The airport was loud, crowded, and chaotic. Just another normal morning rush. People dragged suitcases, announcements echoed through the terminal, and security lines moved slowly, as always. Among hundreds of travelers stood Daniel Carter. Mid-30s. Clean clothes. No nervous behavior. Just another passenger holding a boarding pass and a small black backpack. He didn't look important. He didn't look dangerous. And most importantly, he didn't look like someone who would be remembered. Daniel stepped forward when it was his turn. "Place your bag on the belt. Phone, wallet, keys in the tray," the officer said without looking up. Daniel did exactly that. The backpack slid into the scanner. Daniel walked through the metal detector. No beep, no red light, no alarm. The officer nodded casually. "You're clear. Have a good flight." Daniel picked up his phone, slipped it into his pocket, and took his bag from the other side. For a moment, everything was normal. He took one step, then another. That's when it happened. Behind him, the scanner operator stopped breathing. Her eyes locked onto the screen. Her hand slowly froze over the emergency button. The image on the scanner didn't match the report. It didn't match anything she had seen before. Her heartbeat sped up. She leaned closer, zoomed in, and whispered, barely loud enough for anyone to hear, "Wait, that shouldn't be there." Daniel had already walked 5 steps away when a calm but firm voice broke the noise of the terminal. "Sir." Daniel stopped. The word echoed louder than it should have. "Sir, could you come back for a moment?" People around him didn't notice. To them, it looked routine. But Daniel noticed something else. The officer's hand was shaking. And for the first time since he entered the airport, Daniel didn't turn around immediately. Daniel slowly turned around. His face stayed calm, but his eyes scanned the area instantly. 2 officers had stepped closer to the scanner. Another subtly blocked the exit lane. Still, no alarms, no shouting, no panic. That's what made it worse. "Is something wrong?" Daniel asked, his voice steady. The officer forced a polite smile. "Just a quick recheck, sir. It'll only take a moment." Daniel nodded and walked back. But inside the security booth, things were no longer routine. The scanner operator whispered urgently, "I ran it twice. Same image." "What is it?" another officer asked. She pointed at the screen. Inside the backpack, between folded clothes and a laptop sleeve, was an object that didn't belong. It wasn't metal, it wasn't organic, and it wasn't on the prohibited items list. But it was flagged, highlighted by the system in a warning color almost never seen. The software had attached a silent note beneath the image. "Unregistered component. Match confirmed." One officer frowned. "Match confirmed with what?" "That's the problem," she said quietly. "It doesn't say." Daniel stood on the marked line as instructed. Another officer approached his bag and gently lifted it from the belt. "Sir, have you packed this bag yourself?" he asked. "Yes." "Has anyone given you anything to carry?" "No." The questions were standard, but the tone wasn't. The officer unzipped the backpack slowly. Inside were exactly what Daniel said. Clothes, a charger, a notebook, a slim laptop. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The officer paused, then reached into a hidden inner pocket. His fingers touched something solid. Not heavy, not sharp, but unfamiliar. He froze. "Supervisor," he said quietly. The terminal noise faded for Daniel. He watched as 3 officers exchanged looks, silent, serious. The supervisor arrived within seconds. "What do we have?" she asked. The bag was tilted toward her. She didn't react at first. Then her expression changed. Not fear, recognition. She closed the bag immediately and looked at Daniel. "Sir," she said calmly, "we need you to come with us to a private screening room." Daniel hesitated. Just half a second. Long enough. The supervisor noticed. Her voice lowered. "This is not optional." People nearby still had no idea anything was wrong. But behind the glass, a red indicator silently turned on. And somewhere in the airport's internal system, a message was sent that hadn't been used in years. "Protocol level black, initiated." Daniel took a slow breath. and finally spoke words that made the supervisor stop walking. "You won't find what you think you're looking for," he said. She turned back. "And what do you think we're looking for?" she asked. Daniel met her eyes. Something unreadable passed between them. Then he said quietly, "That depends on who sent you." The private screening room was smaller than Daniel expected. No windows. No posters about prohibited items. No visible cameras. That alone told him this wasn't standard procedure. The door shut softly behind them. Two officers stood near the wall. The supervisor placed the backpack on the metal table but didn't open it. "Sit," she said. Daniel sat. "Before we go any further," she continued, "I need you to understand something. You didn't trigger an alarm. You didn't violate any policy." Daniel raised an eyebrow slightly. "Then why am I here?" She slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was the scan image, zoomed in, highlighted in deep red. "This," she said, tapping the image, "was flagged by a system that doesn't make mistakes." Daniel studied it calmly. "That system isn't supposed to be active," he replied. The room went silent. One of the officers shifted his stance. The supervisor narrowed her eyes. "How would you know that?" Daniel leaned back slowly. "Because I helped shut it down." No one spoke. The supervisor finally broke the silence. "You're saying you worked on a classified detection protocol?" Daniel nodded once. "Years ago, after a series of incidents that were never reported." She crossed her arms. "Then you know what it's detecting?" "Yes," Daniel said. "And you also know it doesn't detect objects." She stiffened. "It detects intent." The word hung heavy in the air. "That component in your bag," she said, "is unregistered, undocumented, and matched to a closed file." Daniel exhaled. "It's a key," he said quietly. "A key to what?" an officer asked. Daniel looked at him. "Access." The supervisor's voice dropped. "Access to where?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket and placed his boarding pass on the table. "Flight number, gate, destination." The supervisor's face changed when she saw it. "That flight was rerouted," she said slowly. "It doesn't exist in the public system anymore." Daniel met her eyes. "I know." She pushed the backpack slightly toward him. "You were never supposed to carry that through open security," she said. "You were supposed to be intercepted before you reached this airport." Daniel smiled faintly. "And yet, here I am." A soft beep echoed from the tablet. An incoming alert. The supervisor glanced at it and froze. Her eyes widened. She turned the screen toward Daniel. "Secondary match detected. Subject verified." Below it was a line that sent a chill through the room. "Status. Active. Do not detain." The supervisor swallowed. "Who are you really?" she asked. Daniel stood up slowly. "Someone who doesn't have much time." He picked up the backpack. "You can stop me," he continued, "but if you do, whatever this system was built to prevent, happens today." The supervisor hesitated. The door unlocked with a soft click. Daniel paused at the doorway and looked back. "You might want to check the departure board," he said. "Gate changes are coming." Then he walked out. And behind him, for the first time in the airport's history, a security system switched itself off. Daniel blended back into the terminal like nothing had happened. People rushed past him, laughing, arguing, checking their phones, completely unaware that something invisible had just shifted. He reached the departure board. Flights flickered. One by one, several listings changed gates. Then one line disappeared completely. Daniel's flight. Across the airport, in a secured control room, a red alert flashed for exactly 3 seconds, then vanished. "Did you see that?" an analyst asked. "No," another replied. "Systems clean." Because it was. The protocol that flagged Daniel had shut itself down, exactly as it was designed to do once its condition was met. Daniel sat near gate 47. He didn't rush. He didn't look back. In his bag, the small unregistered component remained perfectly still. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a bomb. And it wasn't dangerous by itself. It was a failsafe. Years earlier, after a classified failure nearly caused an international disaster, a group of engineers had built a final contingency, something that could override autonomous security systems if they ever crossed a line. Daniel had been one of them. But when the project was buried, the failsafe was supposed to disappear. Instead, it waited waiting for the moment when the system stopped protecting people and started protecting itself. That moment was today. The airport announcement echoed overhead. Attention passengers. Due to an internal systems update, multiple flights will experience delays. Daniel closed his eyes. That update wasn't a bug fix. It was a reset. Across multiple airports, unseen systems quietly reverted to human authorization. No alerts, no headlines, no panic, just silence. Daniel boarded a different flight, one that appeared at the gate seconds before boarding began. No destination listed publicly. As he stepped onto the aircraft, a woman in uniform nodded to him, not as security, but as acknowledgement. The door closed. The plane pulled away. Back at the original checkpoint, the scanner operator stared at her screen in confusion. The flagged image was gone. No record, no log, no incident, just another passenger who passed through security. But hours later, internal auditors would notice something strange. For the first time in years, false positives dropped to zero. And somewhere deep in a classified archive, a file quietly updated its own title. Failsafe. Executed successfully. Because the truth was never about what Daniel carried. It was about what he stopped from happening. And the scariest part, no one outside that room would ever know how close they came.